My younger sister tried to crash my birthday, so I took revenge and made everyone regret it. Alright, I'm going to try to explain how everything blew up between me, 27M, and my younger sister, Sharon 25F, and how, after years of tolerating her behavior and no one holding her accountable, I finally got my revenge on her. You might think this is petty or childish, but when you've lived with someone who repeatedly steps all over your life, you hit a breaking point. And for me, that point came on what was supposed to be my birthday, a day I had hoped would finally be about me for once. Let me give you some context here. Sharon, my younger sister, has always been a bit of a golden child in the family. My parents, for whatever reason, have always put her on a pedestal. They've excused her bad behavior time and time again, whether it was throwing tantrums as a kid, ruining family events, or just generally being a self-centered brat. And me? I've always been expected to be the bigger person. I'm older, after all, and with that comes the responsibility of letting things slide, right? Wrong. For years, I tried to be patient. I tried to put up with her antics, thinking that one day she'd grow up and realize that the world didn't revolve around her. But as you'll soon see, that didn't happen. Instead, things escalated, culminating in what was supposed to be a simple birthday celebration that Sharon decided to hijack for her own selfish reasons. My birthday was supposed to be a low-key event. I'm not a huge party guy, and I don't really need extravagant celebrations. I was happy with a small gathering of close friends and family at our house. Nothing fancy, just a barbecue, some drinks, and good company. I had even planned everything out myself, sent out invites, and was looking forward to a day that, for once, would actually be about me. But Sharon had other plans. It started innocently enough. A few days before my birthday, Sharon mentioned that she had something big planned for that weekend. She didn't give any details, but it didn't sound like it was related to my birthday, so I didn't think much of it. I assumed she had plans with her friends or maybe her boyfriend. Little did I know, her big plans were directly tied to my day, and not in a good way. Fast forward to the day of the party. Everything was going smoothly at first. My friends started arriving. We fired up the grill, and there was a general sense of excitement in the air. For once, it felt like I was at the center of attention in my own life. And then Sharon showed up. I noticed her pulling up in the driveway with a car full of her friends. That was the first sign that something was off. My party was supposed to be a small family and friends thing, nowhere near the level of a rager that Sharon seemed to have in mind. She and her friends stormed in, loud and obnoxious, as if they were arriving at some massive house party. She barely even acknowledged me. Instead, she immediately started taking over the space, telling her friends to grab drinks and sit wherever they wanted. I could feel my frustration rising, but I tried to hold it in. After all, this was typical Sharon behavior, coming in, taking over, and making everything about her. But I wasn't going to let it ruin my day. At least, that's what I told myself. Then it got worse. About an hour into the party, as I was chatting with some friends, I heard Sharon's voice rise above the rest of the conversations. She was standing on the patio, gathering everyone's attention. "Hey, everyone. So I have some exciting news," she announced, her eyes gleaming with excitement. "I'm throwing a big party tonight for my boyfriend's birthday. It's going to be at a club downtown, and I want all of you to come." I froze. Did I hear that right? Was my sister really announcing another birthday party on my birthday? She didn't even mention that it was my birthday, let alone acknowledge that this was supposed to be my day. I could see the confusion on my friends' faces, but Sharon kept talking as if this was totally normal. She started handing out flyers, giving people details about her party. The atmosphere of my party shifted. Suddenly, the focus wasn't on my birthday anymore, it was on Sharon's plans. To say I was furious would be an understatement. I was seething inside, but I didn't want to make a scene. Not yet, anyway. I tried to pull Sharon aside to talk to her privately, but she brushed me off, saying, "Oh, don't be so uptight. We'll still have fun here, but my party tonight is going to be epic." That's when I realized something. Sharon wasn't just crashing my party. She was using my birthday as a prelude to her own event. She'd hijacked my day, and no one was doing anything to stop her. My parents? They just shrugged it off, as usual. "Let her have her fun," they said. "It's not a big deal." Not a big deal? This was my birthday, and once again, I was being pushed into the background while Sharon took center stage. I couldn't let this slide. Not anymore. As the afternoon went on, I could feel myself getting more and more agitated. People were starting to leave my party early to go get ready for Sharon's party. My friends, people who had come to celebrate me, were getting sucked into her whirlwind of self-centered chaos. I wanted to scream, but I knew that would only make me look like the bad guy. Then, Sharon crossed a line that I couldn't ignore. She took the cake, my birthday cake, the one thing I had specifically asked for, and told her friends to start cutting it up. I watched in horror as she took the first slice, not even asking if I wanted to blow out the candles or do anything remotely celebratory. It was the final straw. I snapped. At that moment, I decided I was done being the bigger person. I was done letting Sharon walk all over me, and I was done with my parents always enabling her behavior. I knew I had to do something drastic, something that would make everyone finally see how much of a nightmare she was. I excused myself from the party and went inside, where I could think. As I paced around the kitchen, I came up with a plan that would turn Sharon's big night into a disaster she would never forget. You see, Sharon's party was supposed to be at this trendy downtown club. She had hyped it up for weeks, telling all her friends and even my friends that it was going to be the event of the year. She had made reservations, hired a DJ, and basically poured everything into making it the ultimate party. What she didn't know was that I had a few connections of my own. One of my good friends worked at the very club she was planning to use, and he owed me a favor. I called my friend, let him in on my plan, and asked if he could help me out. He was more than happy to oblige. The plan was simple: sabotage Sharon's party from the inside. I wanted to make sure that by the end of the night, everyone would see Sharon for who she really was. First, my friend made a mistake with her reservation. When Sharon and her friends arrived at the club later that evening, they were told there was no reservation under her name. The confusion and frustration on her face was priceless. She tried arguing with the staff, but they stood their ground. No reservation, no party. Of course, Sharon wasn't going to let that stop her. She tried to pull strings, begging them to let her in anyway. But my friend had already ensured that the club was fully booked for the night. No exceptions. With no other options, she and her friends were left standing outside, humiliated and confused. But that was just the beginning. As Sharon's party crumbled, word started to spread. People who had left my birthday early to go to her event began hearing about the disaster unfolding downtown. They realized they had ditched a perfectly good celebration for a party that didn't even exist. And while Sharon's night was falling apart, my night was just getting started. I had anticipated that some of her friends would come crawling back, looking for a place to continue their night, and I was prepared. I had restocked drinks, ordered more food, and invited some more people over. By the time they came back to my place, my house was alive with laughter, music, and good vibes. Sharon, on the other hand, eventually showed up hours later, completely defeated. Her big night had turned into an epic failure, and she had no one to blame but herself. She tried to act like it wasn't a big deal, but I could see the embarrassment in her eyes. My parents, of course, didn't understand why things had gone so wrong. They tried to console Sharon, but even they couldn't deny that her behavior had been out of line from the start. For once, they didn't have any excuses for her. And for once, Sharon had to face the consequences of her actions. The next few days were filled with awkward tension in the family. Sharon tried to avoid me, and my parents were unusually quiet. I think they finally realized that they had let things go too far. They had spent years enabling Sharon, letting her get away with everything, and now it had backfired in a spectacular way. As for me, I felt a strange sense of satisfaction. For years, I had been the one pushed aside, the one expected to be the bigger person, and finally, I had stood up for myself. I wasn't proud of the way things had played out, but I wasn't sorry either. Sharon never really apologized. I don't think she's capable of that kind of self-reflection. But the dynamic in our family shifted after that. People were more careful around me, more respectful of my boundaries. And Sharon? Well, she stopped trying to crash my birthdays. Looking back on the whole situation, I realized that my revenge wasn't just about Sharon crashing my birthday. It was about years of pent-up frustration and resentment finally boiling over. For too long, I had let her dominate everything: our family, our relationships, our events, and no one had ever called her out on it. Taking my revenge wasn't the most mature or constructive way to deal with things, but in the end, it forced everyone to see the truth. Sharon wasn't a golden child. She was a manipulator, a selfish person who had always gotten her way because no one ever held her accountable. And now? Well, now she knows that I won't be pushed around anymore. So, to anyone out there who's been dealing with a family member who constantly steps all over your life, I have one piece of advice. Stand up for yourself. You don't have to take revenge like I did, but don't let people like that get away with treating you like you don't matter. Because at the end of the day, your happiness and your boundaries are just as important as anyone else's.